Welcome, everyone, to the next episode of Provo City School Districts' What's Up with the Soup podcast. I am Superintendent Wendy Dau. I have two very exciting guests this week. I am joined by the principals of our two comprehensive high schools, Cami Alvarez from Provo High School and Momi from Timpview High School. We will be discussing their roles as principals and hear a little bit about their backgrounds prior to becoming high school principals. And we really are highlighting them because it's National Women's History Month, and these are two of our fantastic female leaders in our district. But first, let's go over our updates. If you are interested in hearing updates regarding the construction projects happening in the district, particularly at Shoreline, Timpview, and Wasatch, please visit the district website and click on the new construction newsletter sign-up link. Newsletters will be sent out every 2 weeks. The Board of Education currently has 2 draft policies available on the district website for community input. From the main page of the district website, click on the Policies Form and Document button. On the next page, at the top left, there is an orange Review Draft Policies Here button. The current policies under review are a draft language access policy and a draft student travel policy. Both of these policies will be voted upon at the March 12th board meeting. 5th grade parents, registration is underway for Camp Big Springs and has been extended to March 29th, 2024. There are plenty of spots available. Remember, if your student would really like to go to camp and you need help paying for camp, there is a scholarship form available at the main office of your elementary school. Get your applications in. The next school board meeting will be a study session and business meeting on Tuesday, March 12th. Study sessions are held in Boardroom 1 at the district office, and business meetings take place in the Professional Development Center. Both meetings are open to the public, and public comment is welcome at the business meeting. The study session begins at 4:45 p.m. and will be held in Boardroom 1. The business meeting will be held in the Professional Development Center and begins at 7 o'clock p.m. Look for the weekly video cast from me every Friday. In this short video, I provide important information and updates about work happening throughout the district. And now, on to our guests. Welcome, everybody. Today, I am here with Cami Alvarez, who is the principal of Provo High School, and Momi, who is the principal of Timpview High School. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you on our show today. As you know, it is Women's History Month, and this is something I get pretty excited and passionate about.
Of course.
I know, yeah. And so I thought it would be great to highlight just for our community, and I also think it's great for our young people to kind of hear about the journeys of leaders and individuals that they're encountering on a daily basis so that they can kind of imagine themselves in different positions and places in their lives. By looking up to others that have kind of gone before them. So that's kind of what I hope we could focus our conversation on today. So I'm really excited to have you guys here. Let's start with each of you. We'll start with Momi. How long have you been in education? How long in Provo City School District? And how long in your current position as the principal of Timpview?
Well, thank you first of all, for allowing us to have this opportunity to get to know each other even here better.
Yeah.
I have been in education for 20 years, and I actually started as a school counselor at Provo High School.
Oh, my
awesome.
goodness.
Yeah, I bleed a little bit of green.
Yeah, there we go.
I do. And then I transferred to Timpview High School, worked there for a number of years, and then I went up to the Utah State Board of Education and supported school counseling programs throughout the state, and then returned to Timpview High School as an administrator or an assistant principal. And I've been an assistant or a principal now for almost 2 years.
Excellent.
And love it. Absolutely.
I know.
Love it.
You can you have a glow about you.
Well,
Both
I
of
wore
you
my
do.
T-shirt,
Yes,
you
did.
know.
I made
but
sure I sported green.
Yes.
There you go, right?
Oh, the school colors,
We
the
love
school
what we
pride.
do.
I love it.
We do.
All right, Cami, tell us a little bit about your background.
So I've been in education probably about 24 years now. I've been in Provo School District. This is my 4th year, but this is my first year at Provo High. I've done a little bit of everything. So I was an English teacher in secondary, but was mainly junior high, so that's a lot of my experience. And then I've been an elementary principal. I've been a high school principal. I've been over professional development. I have worked with failing schools, kind of working them to help them kind of gain some traction and kind of to move some things in different ways. So I've done a little bit of everything.
I think we're going to find that that's how we end up sometimes in our positions, is because we've done a little bit of this, a little bit of this.
A little bit of that. Yep, for sure.
That's really what happens there. So tell me a little bit about why the two of you chose education as your profession. And whoever wants to go can go first.
I guess I could say, like, when I was little, I always played school. Right. I don't know if you guys did.
I totally did.
We always played school. Like, my brothers and sisters were my, students, and I'd always play school. And I think education was something that was always taught to me in my family, like that it was important, even from my grandparents to my parents. And so I think I wanted to, and then, okay, this is really embarrassing, but how do I say it? Okay,
you gotta share it now.
No turning back.
So do you remember like when they would have the movies like Dangerous Minds?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Was it Michelle Pfeiffer?
Yeah, it was Michelle Pfeiffer.
I wanted to like be the Dangerous Minds teacher.
Oh,
I thought that was so cool. Like, I could make a difference. Yeah. And so I like really, those kind of things really inspired me. But I think it was just wanting to help. When you see something in society, I think a lot of people, you want to help. And there's different ways to help. And I think education is perhaps one of the best ways that you can help.
That's awesome. What about you, Momi?
My parents were educators, and I lived on this small island in Hawaii, and I watched them as I was a child. My mother was an elementary school teacher, and my dad was a math high school and CTE teacher.
I did not know this.
Didn't
This
know
is
that?
so great. I love this.
Yes. And so I lived in that world. And so my father passed away unexpectedly, and my mother needed to gain more education. So she brought us up here.
Okay.
And she went into the Ed Leadership Program at BYU. And so she kind of carved this path for me, and I really didn't realize what she was doing, right? So I lived in it. And then, I went to college, and I found myself at a private boarding school advising students from out of state and out of country how they would navigate their education and get to college. So I had this international experience of 9th through, 12th grade and helping them transition to college. So, that was my exposure, and I absolutely loved it. And, and connecting with students who are now adults and parents and seeing them, so I came through a conventional and unconventional way, so to speak, and I've just seen that human beings basically are good.
Yes.
And they want to be better and do better with what they have.
Wow. We could end the podcast right there. That's a mic drop moment right there. Okay, so you're kind of bringing up too, I know a little bit of your backgrounds, but talk to me a little bit about your passion for really serving and identifying kids that are underserved in our education system or in our society in general, because I feel like it's something, that equity piece is something that you are both very passionate about. And so I'd love to hear about your experiences with that. Cami, do you mind if we start with you? Is that okay?
So my mom was she was a speech pathologist, but when I went into education, she always told me, Cami, you need to minor in ESL. You have to minor in ESL. You need to get your ESL minor. And so I did. And it wasn't something I at first thought that I wanted. I'm like, okay, I guess, sure, mom, whatever, like what we say to our moms.
So English as a second language.
Yes, English is a second language. And so as I started teaching, that really became a niche. And it really, I thought I had some minority students in Utah, and then I taught in Atlanta. And there in Georgia, I was the minority.
Right.
And it was very different, but I really connected. I had a large population of Hispanic students. I had them from all over. I had Bosnia, I had Africa, everything. But I loved them. I would stay after, and I remember one of the other teachers, he had been a soccer player somewhere else, and he started this soccer league for the kids, and we
Oh,
would
wow.
stay until 7 p.m., and the kids would all got their
Wow.
uniforms. So I started knowing the soccer teams because they would fashion the uniform after
Oh,
the
that's
soccer
cool.
team. So I'm like, I know Barcelona, the red and the stripes. Like, I know what this one is, or I know Chivas, the green. Like, I started knowing the soccer teams based on that little
Okay.
group. But I just connected with those kids, and I don't know why. And I loved it so much. And I think it influenced even my personal life. My husband is from Mexico, and I like to tease him when he says things because I'm like, oh, you're ESL. Like, oh, that's why. So we like to tease each other. But it influenced, I think, even my personal life. Because sometimes I think if I hadn't had that experience
Right.
in Atlanta with
Yeah.
those students, when I met my husband and he had an accent and these other things, like what would have been my reaction? But because I'd had that experience, it really helped me to meet my husband and look past those things. And then I got to know his family, right? And so that is my family. I have family in Mexico, family here, immigrants from Mexico, and I love them. They are the most wonderful people. They've been the most accepting, and I've seen some of the different struggles that they've had, and they're people I love. And so when I see all students or kids, they're people I love, right? Because I understand those struggles and I see that, but I also grew a love for the culture.
Mm.
And it's more inviting to me, and there's just a warmness about it. And so it's made me more passionate about just helping those who've had different roadblocks in their life that I haven't, wanting to be able to get those out of the way and giving them that opportunity to really shine in what they're capable of.
That's incredible. What about you, Momi?
Well, being Native Hawaiian and growing up on this small island, I was actually quite isolated from other cultures, perhaps. Most of my teachers were actually Japanese. My mother was the only
Oh, that's
Native
interesting.
Hawaiian
Okay. Wow.
teacher at our elementary school. I could sing a bunch of Japanese songs for you, but I won't today. Anyway, so, having this experience, I didn't know anything different.
Right.
And then being plucked out of Molokai and coming here to Utah, going to Orem Junior High School and Orem High School, it was a different experience, and I absolutely loved it. Yet I didn't know how to guide myself. So I took the classes that my friends took.
Right.
I took the honors English from Phyllis Bester, and I took the AP U.S. History from Mr. Allred. But I didn't know why I was taking it. One summer, my friends came to me and said, oh, what'd you get on your AP exam? And I'm like, what are you talking about? Right?
You're like,
I
what is
had
that?
no idea. I mean, I just took the class because my friends were taking the class. I never signed up for the test or anything like that. So, opportunities were there, but I didn't have the knowledge to be able to access it at its maximum levels, right? And so here we are, 40-something years later, where, I'm hearing kind of the same things that some of my students are saying. We need to be bold enough to peel those layers off and have the conversations. And I'm going to tell you right now, anyone who's listening to us, being a leader isn't automatic. Many times during the week, I have my stomach in my throat because I'm nervous about the outcome of a meeting that will challenge me.
Yeah.
So we all have it. Wherever we are at as leaders, we still feel it.
Yep.
It doesn't go away.
No.
It's being bold enough to peel the layers off, understand different perspectives, look at data, share it with others, help them process. So that's one part. And being immersed. I lived in Argentina for a year and a half, and learning a new language was challenging.
Yeah.
But being on the other side too, just because I'm learning a new language doesn't mean that I have a hearing impairment or that I don't know what 2 + 2 is. So it allowed me to experience perhaps, beliefs and mindsets of people who knew that I didn't understand the language very well, right? I'm grateful for having had the opportunity to, throughout my life, to be able to perhaps see what some of my students and their families see.
It's incredible. You guys are bringing up some things. Like I remember my mom was from Denmark, and so she spoke with an accent. I remember people trying to talk really slowly and really loudly at her. And I was like, she understands you. Like she has an accent, but she does know what's going on.
Yes.
It's kind of interesting.
Yes.
But I also felt like because my parents were immigrants, I didn't know all of the access points to education. So like my parents told me the only way you pay for college is through a scholarship. They didn't understand like federal financial aid.
Of course.
There were opportunities that came up that I didn't take because I didn't know that there were these other things in place. And I had no idea where to go to look for that. And I'm thinking, okay, my parents were white, Northern European coming here to the United States. I can't even imagine then coming from a country where your school system is completely different. There's just so many barriers that then, layer on top of that, right? And so, and I wasn't trying to learn another language as a student either. Yeah. So I don't know. It creates this tremendous amount of empathy and understanding to hear the lived experiences. So
true.
Yeah. Tell me when you guys decided you were like, I think I want to be a high school principal. Like, when did that happen? I want to hear about that.
Sometimes you just kind of manifest it out to whoever's listening. And if no one's there, you just do it anyway, right?
That's true.
Another point about being a leader is that you've got to imagine yourself in that position.
That's exactly right. Oh.
And then, sometimes you get scared and you run away a little bit, in your mind, and that's okay. But
Glad to hear that.
Right? You can run away in your mind a little bit, but you say it. You look at yourself and you say, I'm going to be a principal. And then, then you express it to certain people. And then, so you start to develop that. And then you look for opportunities to be able to take on more, to learn more, and then, hopefully be prepared. But I'm going to tell you, you think you're all prepared, but it's not until you jump into that role, right?
Nope.
Yep. Yeah.
Every day it's new. It's like, wow, didn't see that one coming. What about you, Cammie?
I think sometimes I have to self-reflect, like, Cammie, what are you doing? But I like a challenge. Can I say I like a challenge? And I like to kind of think, what's the next thing for me? What's that next thing that I can kind of do? I've worked in the high school before, and I had that in the back of my mind. I always thought, like, I'm a secondary person. But then I went to elementary, and I was like, oh, I really liked elementary. Now I'm back in secondary, and I'm like, I don't know which one, what. But I loved secondary, and for me, it was a challenge to have a school that big with all of those things going on. I really wanted to challenge myself and make a difference. I think one of the things I always like is when a problem comes about. Now I'm thinking of that song, when a problem comes about, you must with, but sorry. Sorry, that's a little bit of a tangent.
I love it.
But when a problem comes about, you got to do something. And I like to think creatively. I like to always think outside the box and think, well, what could we do that nobody's thought of yet? Or how can we kind of do this? And I like to be able to feel successful when you see kids succeeding and you can say, hey, look, we did that, or this helped with that. So I think it was just for me, I wanted the next challenge.
What has been one of the greatest surprises about being a high school principal?
Wow.
I mean, there's probably a ton of things that you're like, wow.
Challenges?
Yeah. What are some of the greatest challenges or a great surprise? Like, wow, didn't see that one. I didn't realize how that would feel like. I'll give you an example. Like, I don't know that I realized when I was a high school principal how incredible it was going to feel when you stand on graduation day and you watch every single kid walk across that stage, and how many of them you were like, we were just shoving them over the finish line, and others of them should have graduated and they were like 12 because they're freaking geniuses. And just the sheer like emotion that, I don't know, there's just nothing better than that feeling.
Yeah.
And it was different being a teacher than it was being the principal, because it's like you're overseeing this whole system that allowed this to happen. I don't know. So something like that's kind of what I'm thinking about.
I had, right when you said graduation, last year, board member Gina Hales actually took a picture from behind me, standing at the podium with everybody at UVU, and it's a picture that I absolutely treasure. In Polynesian culture, when you look ahead, you have to look behind you to know where you're going.
That's right.
And so I love this picture because she is behind me, and then I'm looking forward. And it was my first year as principal, and just getting through we're opening a new phase right now. I had no idea a phase was actually opening. And I was an assistant principal for 4 years and didn't know that.
Yeah.
And, but that whole year, it was, I see that a culmination of carrying these students through their 180 days of learning with teachers and families supporting this process was beautiful. It was breathtaking. And I love it because I still look at it and go, oh my gosh, beautiful.
That's amazing. How about you, Cami?
I think I have been amazed at just the support like I have in my assistant principals, my secretaries, how much they take on and do. One of my weaknesses is I try to do everything, so I have to learn to delegate a little bit better.
I would never have guessed that about you.
And I always have to be like, hey, I'm not doing that trying to think you don't. I'm just trying to help. I just want to help.
Yep.
But I've been amazed at how much support and help I get from the people around me and how willing they want to step in there and do that. And don't worry, Cami, I got this. You don't worry about it. I got this. And so I've been really impressed and just loved that, having that support and help.
That's so awesome.
There is something really, I think that people who work in a high school have the privilege of the layers of support that exist at a high school because you are running basically a small town.
Correct.
And it can be a little bit lonely sometimes, I think.
Yeah.
My husband would talk about that as an elementary principal. Sometimes it's like you don't have this team that's around you. There's something really exciting about that. Have you ever had an experience where people were surprised as that you were the principal? I've had a couple of situations where they've walked up to somebody that they thought was the principal.
Yeah, totally.
And
Probably
yes,
with you,
yes,
right?
yes.
All the time.
Yes.
It happens
so
all the time.
I would love to hear, because I think it speaks a lot to the assumptions that and people really do not mean any harm by this at all. They really don't. It's just kind of new. It's just different. Yeah. So I would love to hear a couple of these stories.
Oh, wow. Yeah, it happens at games a lot, when we go to conferences, and it's all right. It's never really bothered me. I kind of giggle, actually.
Yeah.
And I think, Cami, are you the second female principal at Provo High School?
I think so.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Right?
Well, at least I know of one before.
Right. Okay.
I
Right.
think you're only,
One before.
Yeah, I think you're only the
Karen,
second one.
You're the second, and I'm the first. Right.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Yes. So even in the
Wow.
community, how people perceive us and communicate with us or not. I don't see it necessarily as a challenge because it's a quick fix. Like,
yes.
Mom, you're the okay. I think sometimes experiencing construction that's happening, I'm the first to admit that I don't know much about it, but I do know
I bet
about.
you do now.
Oh yeah, I actually
she knows
do.
way
I do.
more than she wants to.
But even how that industry perceives a woman at that, and so yeah, fine. But here's what needs to happen: teaching and learning continues. This is what I need you to do and not do during school time, right?
Right.
It seems to work out okay. So for the most part, it may be a minor, something that misunderstanding, but then we move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Cami?
Oh, gosh. Okay, I'll tell. There's a fun one. So we have trackers at our school that help students get to class,
Yes.
right? Sometimes they're out in the hallway. They just need a little encouragement. So like I said, I try to do everything. So, of course, at the beginning of the year, I was walking around. Hey, you guys, where are you supposed to be to class? And there were these two girls, and I'm just kind of behind them like, hey, do you know where your class is? And they kind of turned back and kind of gave me this looking down at me like, what are you saying, lady? And I kept persisting. I was like, come on, we got to go. Finally walked into this dance class. The two girls walk in. One of them was waiting out, and I was like, hey, now where's your class? And then the other girl hurried up and ran out, and her eyes were big. And she says in Spanish to the other student, which I can make out a little, that's the principal. And so the teacher had told her, like, oh, this tracker's giving me, she said, and she's like, that's the principal. And she's like, what? And so the next girl, I walked her to class and I was like, oh, see, because she was much nicer to me. And I was like, oh, so if you'd have known I was the principal, you would have been a little nut. And we were joking around and stuff. And so it was kind of funny. And, but also sometimes it's nice. Like, I think, I don't know why, but when you're a woman, I think people think you're younger than you are.
That's true.
I don't know why, but they always think you're younger because we did this little dance, Dancing with the Stars. And it was really nice when the dance teacher said, okay, when you dance, like Cammie, and then it was another teacher, like Mrs. Reese, you guys have to have something to separate you from the kids because they might think you're the student. And I was like, thank you. I love that. Yes.
It does keep you young to be a high school principal.
Good,
like
okay.
it really, and like
Absolutely.
in a young,
well,
it really does.
I've learned more of the like it's dripping. Like,
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
your guy, the outfit. Like I'm learning
yeah.
some more.
They want you to do the moves that they do. And I'm like, I can't do that. Let
Oh, I
me
bet
just
you
stand in
can,
the
Momi.
middle and you twirl around me.
I do think it's interesting to see the responses sometimes that people have and the surprise that they exhibit.
Yes.
And then you build the relationship,
Yes.
right? And it's about building that relationship and that trust. And then it's like, they'll come back and be like, I can't even believe that was even a thought in my mind because this person has
Right.
been an excellent leader and I've been really grateful. And so I do appreciate, I feel like people are willing to, their mindset is, we are able to change
Yes.
it, right? They're not
Yeah.
stuck in that mindset,
Yeah.
which is really good. If we have young women that are listening to this podcast and they're thinking about, I want to have a career in whatever, it doesn't have to be education. What is a piece of advice that you would give them that you wish you had either listened to more or someone had just said to you at an even younger age? Or what would you tell yourself like 20 years ago?
That what exists around you is a concept, but it doesn't need to be your reality.
Good.
How you envision yourself, absolutely 100%, you have the opportunity to get from here to there. That's, even though there are surrounding sort of messaging or that's not for you. You can still move ahead and become who you want to be. And partner with a mentor, even several mentors. It doesn't have to be just one. I look back in my life, I see many different mentors, even women who own their own businesses.
Oh.
I still text them and say, how do you have this critical conversation with someone who you absolutely appreciate, but there's just, something that I need to say, and it's really difficult. I've been able to talk to some of my women friends who have, because I don't know if I am projecting something common that we have as women, but I think we think more broadly than just the person as the employee in that job. We think about the impact of the family and, how they're going to interact with their students in front of them. And, and so it could draw us into a space that maybe we don't want to say it, and so I've had to ask some of my female mentors to give me some advice on that in particular.
Cammie?
I would say, I was brought up in a culture which I love and respect where a lot of times women were talked about. I always heard just about being a mother and a wife, which I think are noble causes. I'm a mother and a wife too. But I'm grateful that my mother, who was a mother and a wife, but she also had a master's degree. And she didn't work while we were younger, but went back into it. She always stressed to me the importance of education was number one. She never pressured me to get married, to do anything, which is probably why I didn't until I was way older. Like maybe that was a mistake on her part. No. But I really respected that. And I will say I'm a mother too. And that can be really hard. And in the state of Utah, I don't know if some people are familiar. I think her name is Susan Madsen, does a lot of work with women in Utah. She has a movement right now called A Bolder Way Forward. And I'm very passionate about and love, that she's doing all this because it's hard being a high school principal, but I'm also a mother to like an elementary student. And I want to tell women and people coming up, don't limit yourself. When I had the job at Provo High School, I remember having a conversation even with my younger sister. I'm like, I don't know if I should go for this because it takes time away. And like, what about my little boy? Like, should I do that? I don't know that that's the right thing. I'm just really conflicted. Mm-hmm. Should I do this? And I love that the people in my family, they're like, yes, Cammie, you do that. if it's the right thing, you do it, you will figure it out.
Yeah.
And so I want to say to all girls, women, don't limit yourself on those. Do men go through that conversation? I don't know. I don't know. But like, don't limit yourself.
Right.
Like, you will find a way. Don't limit yourself to just being a nurse. If you want to be a doctor, be a doctor. Don't say,
Right.
oh, but I have a 3-year-old. No, do it. You will figure out a way. So I would just say, don't limit yourself. If you want something, go for it. No matter what other things you have, you'll find a way to balance it out and you'll be able to figure it out. So just don't limit yourself to that.
Yeah.
I think one of the things, too, that I think about as I think about my path in education as well, I think about there have been tons of women who have helped encourage me, but I also want to pay tremendous tribute to the men that I've worked with that have also
That's
believed
true.
in me.
Sure.
Like
Yes.
my
Yeah.
husband, my dad,
Yes.
my colleagues. It really has been about a whole group of people. It isn't just one specific type of individual. It is helpful sometimes because there are certain experiences that I think might be unique,
Yeah.
To either a person of color or a female or whatever it might be that someone can share and help you through. But it's also really important to recognize that it's a ton of people that have
So
gotten us
true.
I agree.
where we are. And I'm just so grateful for all of those people.
It is like now I just have to say, because even my husband has supported me all the way, right?
Yes.
And it's like, hey, we don't have time. Well, guess what we're doing tonight? We're going to the basketball
Yes.
game. We're going to go
Right.
to the volleyball game,
Yep.
or we're going to do this. Even my dad has always been supported. Even my brother-in-law, I remember would go and like, I'll pick up your kid from school for you. Like, I have this off. So like, so many people have supported, and I appreciate that.
So true.
incredible.
So true.
Tell me, who is somebody that you look up to and you're like, this person really made a difference as I studied their life or met with them, or they were a mentor to me. And you just want to pay tribute to that individual for helping you get where you are. And it might be a list of like 80 people, but pick one.
I just have so many. I'm going to say Lillian Sosi Jensen. She is a dear colleague and friend of mine. She is Navajo Dutch, and we had the opportunity to work together. What I appreciated about her, she always challenged me, even in uncomfortable spaces, even with things that I may not have agreed with, and then I had to refine my thoughts to be able to express it to her as to why I didn't agree. And she gave me that space to be able to do that. She was the one who encouraged me to go back into get my license in administration, but she always, pushed me to go beyond the mark that I, at certain times, didn't feel prepared to.
Right.
We have this long friendship. She lives in Stansbury Park, and every other month we get together. I've heard that about friends that you have.
Yes.
You get together,
Yeah.
and you just share your life's activities. And I really appreciated her, especially in the multicultural and in the public education realm, and here in Utah. Appreciate her mentorship.
That's incredible.
So there's so many people. It's like everybody along the way, there's somebody kind of doing something. Even I could even point different men here at Provo City School District who would have conversations with me and say, Cammie, you could do this, or you're even Superintendent Riddle, or just even Alex Judd. But I think if I had to pick one, like, it has to be my mom. I know maybe that's the go-to answer, but my mom, education was always important to her. And she spoke with an accent too, but it was from Boston. But I
Okay.
bet a lot of
Okay.
people were probably, I bet a lot of
she
people were
was
like,
from a
what
foreign
foreign
country."
country are you from? Which maybe kind of is sometimes. But she always instilled to me the importance of education. And she was somebody who was also a mother. She had 7 kids. We kind of thought she was crazy, but now we kind of understand a little bit better. Maybe she was crazy, but we made her crazy. But she was somebody that, and even to this day, it's like she always has to keep doing something, but is constantly working, like keeping her mind active. It's not even about working, but it's about learning and about doing something. Even my grandmother, she lived till she was 94, But I mean,
Wow.
I remember her, maybe she was in her 90s, telling me, I'm taking this French class, Cammie. Oh, I'm
Oh,
remembering
wow.
this and I'm doing this. And I mean, I think that's always attributed to like why she lived so long and why she
Yeah.
was happy, because there was something to fulfill
Mm.
her, whether it's learning about that or anything. And so I think all those women in my lives contributed to having that same desire myself.
Sometimes it's just we need other people to believe in us, right?
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
Very much
For
so.
sure.
Well, I just want you to know how grateful I am that both of you are leaders here in Provo City School District. I feel very, very, very fortunate to work with both of you and to have you leading our high schools. And thank you for this wonderful opportunity to talk with you today.
Well, thank
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you for joining me for this week's episode of What's Up with the Soup. As always, all episodes will be posted on the district website, YouTube, and anywhere you get your podcasts. If you have any topics or questions you would like to discuss on this podcast, please email us at podcast@provo.edu. As always, we will have an all-new episode of What's Up with the Soup next week. Until next time.